Disney's river country was once a quiet bayou escape. Rope swings, warm lake water, and families spending long summer days by the shoreline. Today, it sits abandoned. Slides cracked open by the sun, pools overtaken by algae. A forgotten world slowly being reclaimed by the Florida wilderness. So what happened?
That's the Mouseketeers singing the praises of River Country, Disney World's very first water park.
River Country.
The water park opened in 1976, but the fun wouldn't last forever. River Country was shut down in 2001.
How did one of Disney's most beloved water parks fade from laughter and sunlight into silence? Walt Disney envisioned a natural swimming area that embodied the essence of the American landscape. His drawing motivated designers to develop a water play area that seemed natural, resembling a hidden riverbank where families could explore mild rapids, rope swings, and sandy nooks.
Typhoon Lagoon is our answer to River Country because River Country was getting so full. River Country in the 70s, when it opened, was revolutionary for its time. It was the first themed water park around.
Walt did not live to see the opening of River Country, but the vision moved forward. The park finally opened in the mid-1970s as a small 5-acre retreat carved into the shores near Fort Wilderness. Visitors who experienced those first summers describe River Country as a world that felt removed from the rest of Walt Disney World. Instead of polished concrete and towering structures, families entered a warm and welcoming space that blended with the bayou surroundings. Water flowed in from Bay Lake, passed through sand filtration, and filled the swimming areas with a natural glow. There were no harsh chemical smells and no bright blue dye. Everything felt soft, earthy, and lived in. The Whoop and Holler hollow slides curved gently from the hillside and dropped riders into a cool splash at the bottom. The upstream plunge pool created a refreshing challenge as swimmers pushed against the flow. The whitewater rapids sent guests down churning channels that mimicked wild streams. Families spread towels across the sandy beach while the sun shimmered on the lake. For many, it was one of the first truly immersive water attractions they had ever visited. A family, the Smiths from Orlando, recalls their visits distinctly. They showed up in their vintage station wagon carrying a cooler stocked with sandwiches and fruit. The kids dashed forward with their towels as their parents trailed slowly behind. The father described the location as a concealed paradise, sufficiently private that he felt secure allowing his children to explore. He recalls the feeling of an entire day that felt limitless, filled with rope swings, laughter, and extended stretches drifting beneath the warm sky. Although the park became popular, it always felt personal. Former employees speak about those early years with similar affection. One lifeguard named Tom worked his first summer job at River Country. He remembers standing on the wooden platforms, whistle in hand, watching children leap into the water with complete trust and joy. He said that the air always smelled faintly of pine, sunscreen, and lake water. He joked that most visitors never knew what the lifeguards did in between rescues. The truth was simple. They watched, they waited, and they cherished the magic around them. When he thinks back, he says River Country taught him responsibility. But it also taught him how fleeting summers can be. The park became a beloved landmark within Walt Disney World. As the resort expanded and introduced larger water parks, River Country remained a cozy alternative. It was the original, the trailblazer that paved the way for other aquatic attractions. Even as newer parks grew grander and more dramatic, many families still returned to River Country because it felt like home. But the same natural water that made River Country unique also held an unseen danger. During a warm summer day, a young boy named Keith Murr fell ill after swimming in one of the lake-connected areas. Doctors later identified a rare amoeba as the cause of his tragic death. The news sent a wave of fear through parents and cast a long shadow across the park. Disney added stronger water treatment practices soon after, and officials stressed that such infections were extremely rare. Yet for some families, the memory lingered.
An 11-year-old boy died after contracting an amoebic infection of the brain from swimming in River Country's Bay Cove.
It became one of the earliest cracks in the park's once unshakable innocence. For years after the tragedy, River Country continued operating and still drew visitors, although attendance slowly softened. Newer parks offered bigger slides and more dramatic themes. Typhoon Lagoon arrived with a massive wave pool and a sense of spectacle that river country never tried to match. Blizzard Beach brought icy visuals and high-speed thrills. River country's charm remained, but its scale worked against it. Guests who favored nostalgia kept returning, although the place began showing small signs of age. Paint faded, wood weathered, and some equipment demanded frequent repairs. Nature pressed against the borders of the park with growing determination. Still, families created memories there. They rode the rapids, lounged in the sun, and watched fireworks from the shoreline while the evening breeze rolled in from Bay Lake. After the events of September 2001, tourism across the United States slowed dramatically. Disney closed river country for the season, describing the decision as temporary. Many assumed the gates would reopen, but they never did. The stillness began quietly, almost casually, but it marked the beginning of a long slumber. Over time, the temporary closure shifted into an unspoken abandonment. By the mid-2000s, the pathways began to crack. Leaves collected in the pools, handrails rusted. With no guests, no lifeguards, and no daily maintenance, the Florida wilderness began to wrap itself around the structures. In the early years of abandonment, a handful of explorers wandered into the area despite fences and warning signs. They described what they found with a mix of awe and sadness. Slides fractured under the unforgiving sun. Water that had once looked inviting now sat still and murky. Algae coated the edges of pools. Branches blocked pathways that had once led to warm afternoons of play. Tom, the former lifeguard, returned once before security measures tightened. He said the silence felt heavier than he expected. The echoes of the past seemed to cling to the air. He remembered children running across the sand, and for a moment he imagined he could still hear them. But the reality was different. The laughter was gone. Leaves rustled where towels used to flutter. Small animals made homes where visitors used to sit. Wildlife adapted quickly to the forgotten landscape. Birds nested in abandoned lifeguard stands. Turtles began laying eggs near the water's edge. Cypress roots rose through the old walkways. Even alligators occasionally slipped into the quiet pools where swimmers once splashed. Nature had reclaimed what human hands had shaped. Plans to redevelop the land were announced years later.
As we previously announced, Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge, would bring a whole new way to stay in Walt Disney World. And today, we're ready to share more details.
A lakeside lodge was proposed, and early designs suggested that the area would soon return to life. But shifting priorities, economic changes, and global events paused the project repeatedly. Construction markers appeared and disappeared. Blueprints faded. The future of the land remained uncertain. Disney never demolished the remains of the park, and so river country continued to rest in its strange state of intentional emptiness. Today, if you drift near Bay Lake at dusk, you can still see remnants of the park. The structures sit softened by time, blending with the trees. The wind moves through the vines that wind around the old railings. The water remains quiet, disturbed only by fish breaking the surface or birds gliding low. It feels less like a forgotten theme park and more like an artifact from a different life, one that exists on the edge of memory. The Smith family often talks about their visits. The father says that river country taught his children the beauty of simple pleasures. He believes the park became a small reminder that nature has its own rules. It offered magic, but it also demanded respect. Tom, now older and reflective, says that the abandonment does not erase what the park meant to so many people. Instead, it stands as a reminder of how experiences linger even when places disappear. River country now represents both the thrill of creativity and the quiet truth that some dreams are not meant to last forever. Its history is a mixture of innovation, joy, accident, resilience, and natural force. It helped shape Disney's future water attractions and left a soft imprint on the memories of countless families. Even in its crumbling state, it continues to tell a story. This is river country today. It is not erased, only resting. It is a forgotten dream preserved by the slow patience of nature. It waits quietly, not for crowds or cameras, but for time to decide what comes next. The vines may tighten and the wood may rot, but the story remains. If you ever swam in this hidden corner of Walt Disney World, you carry a piece of that story with you. And if you have never been there, you can still imagine the laughter that once floated across the water. It rises and fades like a distant echo, reminding us that even forgotten places have their own heartbeat. If you want to keep exploring the quiet corners and changing landscapes of Disney, hit subscribe. See you on the other one.